Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 342. Your weekly little get together. We talk about recent gaming news. As always, your host, Stephen Brown, and tonight we have mass layoffs happening across the industry. Avengers gets Anthem'ed, and more. But first, I want everyone here to know this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching live here at Twitch TV/GamePoints or later over at YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, wherever, feel free to join the conversation if any questions, comments, concerns you might have. Just try to keep them germane to the topics on hand. Turns out, for this, I actually don't need the headphones. Sometimes show prep gets a little away from you before you actually start. That said, let's go ahead and get right into the very first topic of the evening here. And we're going to have to talk about the layoffs that have been hitting Microsoft and a myriad of other just companies across the gaming industry. But Microsoft is, of course, the big one. This article here is from Video Game Chronicle. This and all links to stories will be provided down below if you have an interest in reading them yourself, and I encourage you to do so. Confirmed. Microsoft will lay off 10,000 employees. A huge number. That number represents roughly 4.5% of Microsoft's staff, which is about 220,000 people. Think about that. Microsoft employs 250,000 people. Now, of course, Microsoft is more than just Xbox. It's cloud gaming. It's not just even gaming, but it's like cloud technology. Every Windows computer is related to Microsoft. They are a huge company, so it makes sense that they had that many. But I've never thought about one company employing so many people at once. It's just that number is huge. But yes, they're going to be laying off 10,000 employees across the entire company, and it will be affecting the gaming side of things as well. Bethesda Game Studios, the Coalition, and Halo Maker 343 are all going to get beat with the layoff stick, it seems. 343 specifically seems to be singled out due to the rather public departures of many people. Joe Stratton, for example, left recently. And it just seems to be the target of a lot of people's ire right now, given the myriad of problems that the Halo franchise has had over the past few years, kind of exemplified by Halo Infinite's lackluster showing, shall we say. In this story here from Eurogamer, we don't seem to be the only ones that have issue with Halo Infinite and 343 in general. This story here from Eurogamer, ex-Halo Infinite developers criticize incompetent leadership at Microsoft. And it seems like this is where the bullseye should be. I know a lot of people still talk about the Don Matrick curse, and I get that that man kind of left a mess when he pieced out a few years back. But it has been a while. After a certain amount of time, we have to start looking less at the ghost of Don Matrick and more at Phil Spencer. Now, listen, I like Phil Spencer. He seems like a personable guy. Seems like someone I want to go and get a beer with. But under his leadership, it seems like Microsoft has been floundering. Now, how much of that is directly his fault, we can't say. But after a while, you have to stop blaming the man that was there and start asking hard questions of the man who is there. To the article here from Eurogamer. Former 343 Industries employees have taken to social media to criticize Microsoft following a round of layoffs. Patrick Wren, former senior multiplayer designer on Halo Infinite and now working at Respawn, was one such former employee who criticized the incompetent leadership up at the top. The layoffs at 343 shouldn't have happened and Halo Infinite should be in a better state, he said on Twitter. The reason for both of these things is incompetent leadership at the top during the Halo Infinite development, causing massive stress on those working hard to make it the best it can be. The people I worked with every day were passionate about Halo and wanted to make something great for the fans. They helped push for a better Halo and got laid off for it. Which does suck. Layoffs aren't necessarily good in any... Well, they just aren't good for most people. I keep having to clarify this statement. Layoffs typically suck. I shouldn't even say typically. Layoffs suck. Keep trying to use $10 words on a $5 one work just fine. Back to the article. Tyler Owens, another former 343 Industries employee, now at Respawn working on Apex Legends, tweeted the following. As a Halo fan, I'm really tired of Microsoft business practices and policies slowly killing the thing I love. Between the contracting policies and the abuse for tax incentives and layoffs in the face of a gigantic profits and executive bonuses, they set Halo up for failure. It seems to be that One thing I hate is this blaming executive bonuses and saying a company made a lot of profit so they shouldn't be laying people off, because there are usually way more factors involved than just that, because they tend to be forward thinking and everyone sees the economy starting to kind of spiral out of control and collapse before our eyes. All these companies are starting to prepare for it. That's the main driver behind these layoffs, not the company executive bonus or anything like that. Although, admittedly, it does give bad optics when an executive takes an extra bonus or gets a huge pay increase while they're laying people off, for sure. Hey there, Coke for Tacos. Good to have you. You're saying that as time goes on, the initial showcase for the Xbox One in 2013 seems like it was a warning for the direction of the brand it has headed in. If I recall, the Xbox One 2013 showcase was the E3 one, was the one when they rolled out what the Xbox One was going to bring to the table, and it was primarily sports and TV. It was very meme-worthy at the time. Forgive me, it's been almost a decade since that show, but I believe that's the one you're referring to. And yeah, Microsoft has slightly changed the message over the years, but for the most part, they have been very aggressive in pursuing the we don't make systems or games, we provide a service for people. Now, they do have a lot of games in active development where they are at this point. Who the hell knows? That's another one of those things that you can start blaming on leadership for. For example, where's Perfect Dark? Where's the rest of Halo Infinite? Where's the new Gears of War? Where's all these things? Fable, for God's sake. Where are all these things that have been announced? They just what, aren't around? It's one of those things that you have to look at and you have to wonder, is it really in your best interest if you're wanting the Activision Blizzard deal to go through? I was leaning more toward I would like to see it happen, because honestly, I wanted Blizzard games on Game Pass. I'll fully admit it. That was my main driver to it. But as I see the disaster that seems to be Xbox's first party offerings and how they're just not coming to the show, not coming to the floor, and when they do, they're in a dismal state, I don't know if I want the next Diablo to be handled by Microsoft. I don't know if I want whatever StarCraft holds in the future, if it even has a future, to be run by a studio that can't even make their flagship, or a publisher rather, that can't make their flagship franchise, Halo, the best it can possibly be. These are the questions we need to start asking of Microsoft, and specifically of, oh my God, I forgot his name. Phil Spencer. I blacked out on his name. Hey, the Wild Man, good to have you in chat as well. Back to the article. At the end of last year, Halo Infinite's multiplayer creative team director, Tom French, left for 343 Studios. Today, they reported, or when this article was written, they reported the departure of Halo veteran and head of creative Joseph Staten from 343 Industries. There have been a series of high-profile people leaving 343 Studios, which started leading to a bunch of theories that 343 might be off of Halo as a franchise, which would just be devastating for that studio because they're literally named after the franchise. 343, of course, a reference to Guilty Spark 343 and one of the antagonists of the franchise. And to have them taken off, or at least even in a backseat role to the franchise that studio is created to lead, it's not good. At that point, you have to start asking why 343 even exists. Well, to kind of counter those rumors, 343 itself came out and issued a statement saying, hey, we're continuing to develop Halo now and in the future, including epic stories, multiplayer, and more of what makes Halo great. Signed, Law. Now, there's also been a lot of scuttlebutt and rumors going on about, things that might have been canceled, things that have gotten scrapped, changes happening behind the scenes, other studios getting crack at Halo. These are all under dispute right now. You have one source saying it's happening. You have another person coming out saying, hey, this is complete BS and bunk, don't believe it. I'm not going to get to any of that stuff this time around. But you are insane if you don't think that there is massive trouble going on at 343 and Microsoft as a whole. There is something fundamentally broken at Microsoft when it comes to games. I don't exactly know what it is. Is it Phil Spencer? Is it the ghost of Don Matrick still fucking things up? Is it because they were poorly run during COVID and really couldn't get their shit together? I don't know. But something has to change. And if it doesn't, I don't see much of a future for the Xbox at all. Do I mean at Xbox or Microsoft as well? I mean specifically at Xbox. I'm talking specifically Xbox here. Everything from Phil Spencer on down. There is something fundamentally borked. And I think at the end of the day, love it or love him or hate him, you have to lay the blame at Phil Spencer. Not necessarily at the head of 343, not necessarily at the head of the coalition or the initiative or any other of these developers under the umbrella. If it was only one or two studios, okay, I would think that something is wrong with those studios. But it's from the top all the way down at Microsoft, at Xbox. That speaks to issues with Phil Spencer. And if it's not him directly that's causing it, it's still incumbent on him to figure out what is causing them. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents. It sucks because I actually like Phil Spencer. He is very personable. He reminds me a lot of how Sony used to be with Shuhei Yoshida and the other guy whose name escaping me right now. Unlike how they are under Jim Ryan, who is very much a corporate suit. Phil Spencer seemed to walk that line between, hey, I got no problem talking to the fans, and I'm being counted. He seemed to walk that line perfectly, but he's got to put up or shut up at this point. There's something clearly wrong. Let's take a look at chat here. I'm not in the know how that company operates, but it seems almost like the focus right now is Game Pass and almost nothing but Game Pass. 100%. Microsoft wants desperately to become the Netflix of video games. And they are willing to eat massive losses year over year over year until they get it. Remember, Xbox is not Microsoft. Microsoft is significantly larger than Xbox, and they can run the Xbox brand at a massive loss until finally they drive out all their other competition. They just can. They could afford to do it. And that's kind of what they're doing right now. You could see it with the Activision Blizzard buyout when they're trying to get the Call of Duty name. It's the biggest franchise in console gaming. It will do irreparable harm to Sony. It would. Not that I care for Sony's existence one way or another. It's one big corporation targeting another big corporation. Fucking cares. But the reason why they're doing it is because they're trying to do the Walmart thing, where they come in, they undercut everyone else around them, eating losses at the same time. And when they're the only game in town, then they get 100% of the business. That's what Microsoft is trying to do here. Anyways, Microsoft is not the only company experiencing layoffs. We have layoffs happening at the Washington Post as well. It seems like they're shutting down their launcher division, which was their games media outlet. We have layoffs at Vox Media, Fandom, IGN, GameBite, Game Informer, Future, Vice, Ubisoft, I believe, was recently announced on there. NetEase is on there. The entire industry, publishers, developers, media, platform holders, mass layoffs happening across the board, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. They're just getting started. And I know I sound a little bit like a broken record because I've mentioned this from the past few shows, but don't be surprised when projects that you were looking forward to get canceled or delayed indefinitely, or studios that you love go bye-bye, or people that you really like in the games industry, certain big name figures, start moving on to greener pastures or leaving the industry in its entirety. That is the economic reality of the situation we find ourselves in. The world is going to be going through a major, in my opinion, don't take this as financial advice, recession. And all these companies see it coming. That's why they're starting to batten down the hatch. So be prepared to see more and more and more of this before the year is out. Take a look at chat here again real quick. Ubisoft won't survive independently by 2024. It's looking like. I agree. I don't even think they're going to survive at all. The scuttlebutt about Ubisoft specifically is that they were trying to sell themselves off to some major company, and they were just laughed out of every room. People looked at Ubisoft, looked how spread out they were, looked at their bloated headcount, and compared that to the strength of their IPs, which is many and decently strong. Assassin's Creed is still a juggernaut. Rainbow Six is huge. But when you look at the value of that and compare it to just the massive bloat that is Ubisoft, it's not worth it. And they're apparently laughed out of every single deal. That's just rumor. I have no inside information on that. That is just what the rumor is. But I am inclined to believe it. All right. Moving on to the next topic here. Hope you weren't necessarily really enjoying the Avengers because it just got Anthem'ed. In a blog post here from Crystal Dynamics. Final update on the future of Marvel's Avengers. After 2.5 years of introducing 12 of Earth's mightiest heroes, following the update 2.8 on March 31st, 2023, we will no longer add new content or features to Marvel Avengers. All official support for the game will end on September 30th, 2023. Even after official support ceases on September 30th, both single and multiplayer gameplay will continue to be available. See below for more information. Update 2.7, which added the Winter Soldier hero and Cloning Lab Omega level threat, is the last new content to be added to the game. No new cosmetics are coming to the marketplace, and all final balance updates will occur in Update 2.8 in March. Along with the end of development, we'll also be turning off the cosmetics marketplace. When the update launches on March 31st, credits will no longer be purchasable, and all remaining credit balances will be converted into in-game resources to aid ongoing adventures. That's that. This game had some potential, but when it launched, people very quickly found out that it was a boring-ass grind fest. And I know that some of you out there really enjoy the Avengers, and it always sucks to see something that you like get shut down. But you are in the minority. Most people looked at this and went, at best, this is kind of boring. At worst, they saw it for what it actually was. A soulless cash grab designed to milk out every single penny from your wallet before robbing you of all of your time in a slow drip content faucet whose sole goal was to get you to come back and buy slightly different colored reskins for heroes every week. This game should have been a hit. And over monetization and adherence to that weird games as a service, aka games are your second job mentality, killed this thing dead. It has essentially been a zombie for the past past year or so, shuffling along as they were doing little tiny update after update. I would have presumed to fill any contractual obligations they might have had, or any promises they might have made to the general audience to keep from getting sued afterwards. But once all those were met, they are flicking the switch and turning it off. We need to stop with the games as a service mentality. It is a race to the bottom. One of the reasons, in my opinion, why you're seeing such just a quality drop across the board on everything from Avengers to Halo Infinite to even Warhammer Darktide is this chasing of the microtransaction-filled games as a service. It's why I have increasingly becoming more and more disillusioned with AAA development and focusing more on smaller indie games. Because of shit like this. And they'll spend hundreds of millions of dollars to create this overarching game that's never actually supposed to end and constantly keep feeding you content at a dismal rate, hoping that you sit your ass down in a chair once every couple hours a week and play the game. But what they're hoping is that you don't play the game. What they're hoping is that while you're playing the game, you see the advertisement, and that's what they are. They are ads to buy another skin, to get the booster pack to advance to another level, to unlock this new DLC, to show your true gamer status as a proud member of the Avengers community by getting the red, white, and black Captain America skin rather than the red, white, and blue one. It's shameless. And we should celebrate when these games come to an end. We should celebrate when a publisher loses money on a games as a service thing like this one right here. Because the more we as consumers and people who buy these games and play them and enjoy them, the more we speak with our wallets and the more we keep them closed in front of practices like this nonsensical race to the bottom, the more they'll realize that they shouldn't be making them and the less they'll be in the future. Everyone's chasing Fortnite. Everyone's chasing Destiny. Everyone is chasing Call of Duty Warzone or Grand Theft Auto. Stop trying to be someone else and become something else. For the love of Christ, please. I'm begging you. Or embrace your multi-$100 million failures like Marvel Avengers. We'll see which one ends up winning out before the end. Let's take a look at chat here before we move on to the next topic here. Tinfoil hat time. I think with possible recession looming over, the games as a service won't be viable. Most people can't afford a full price game, let alone justify paying $20 for some skins. No, what I think is going to happen is, I understand that mentality, but what I think is going to happen is you're going to have more and more investors, the people a lot of these companies truly listen to, going up to the CEOs of, say, EA or Ubisoft or Activision going, why don't you have a Fortnite? Look how much money Fortnite makes. Make another Fortnite. Make Fortnite. And they go, okay, we're making a Fortnite. And then when it's not Fortnite, because the only thing that is Fortnite is fucking Fortnite, the investors go, why wasn't that Fortnite? Make another one. Make another Fortnite. It's what happens when your industry is creatively bankrupt. And that's where we're at now. Watermelon Chat says, do you think more people are going to take to the pirate hat? The piracy thing has always been more, to me anyways, my stance on the piracy thing, it's always been more of a matter of convenience than cost. I can't speak to outside of America. I know that in some places games are 2 or 3 times as much as they cost here. In which case then piracy could be focused around cost rather than convenience. But in America, at least, my experience and my anecdotal conversations that I've had with people online is that it's just more about convenience. If it's a bitch and a half to access something, they'll pirate it. If it's right there and they don't have to pay a couple bucks for it, it's right there. And cost, by the way, is added into convenience. If it becomes inconvenient to get something, if I can't just find it easily online and I have to work, say, 7 hours at my job to afford it, at what point does it become more convenient just to buy it or pirate it? There is a line. I don't think we're at it yet in America specifically. I think what will happen before piracy is that more people just will stop buying games. That's what I think will happen. Next topic here. I'm going to mute myself real quick. Sorry about that. This is via Video Game Chronicle. NetEase publicly tears down World of Warcraft statue following Blizzard Rift. A little bit of schadenfreude from this one. I'll explain as we go on. It was announced on November 2022 that Blizzard games are being shut down in China in January 2023, after it was unable to come to an agreement with NetEase over the renewal of its licensing deal. At the time, NetEase had partnerships with NetEase head of partnerships, Simon Zhu, claimed on social media the following. One day, when what has happened behind the scenes can be told, Developers and gamers alike will have a whole new level of understanding on how much damage a jerk can make, end quote. Conflict has seemingly not been resolved since, and as recent days, NetEase has been vocal again about its angle, including reportedly live streaming the teardown of a World of Warcraft statue on the grounds of Hangzhou, its headquarters. The demolition of a statue came a day after Blizzard posted a message on its official Weibo page stating it will shut down all Blizzard games in China on January 24. By the way, just to be clear, it's not all Blizzard games in China. It's all but one. Diablo Immortal does have a separate agreement with NetEase, and that is still running. But I believe all the other Blizzard games have, as officially today, stopped working in China. NetEase responded with its own statement accusing Blizzard of proposing a 6-month extension with NetEase, while at the same time trying to arrange a new 3-year contract with other potential partners. This is where my schadenfreude comes in. China is a huge, huge market. Blizzard bent over backwards trying to appease the CCP with their censoring of people talking about freeing Hong Kong, with their over-the-top chat censorship, keeping people from mentioning things like the phrase Hong Kong or Tiananmen Square in there. I get that to be able to operate in China, you have to make these concessions. But you know what? Sometimes you just have to go, no, fuck that. We're not going to deal with evil. And that is what the CCP is. And NetEase is essentially an extension of the CCP. You don't get to be a business in China without being one. And to see all the kowtowing and bending over backwards and all the jumping through hoops that Blizzard and Activision King did to get released in China, to see all of that come crashing down, concluding with the destruction of a WoW statue, you get what you fucking deserve. Coco for Tacos in chat says, why do business that would happily ban or even nationalize your assets whenever they feel warranted? Exactly. It's part of the reason why, if you want the numbers reason why, is because there's 1 billion extra people in China. When you have hit market saturation in North America and Europe, there's not too many other markets you can turn to other than China. And Blizzard was reaching saturation point in America and Europe. It is a huge populace. So if you want to know the reason why, that is why. And in their minds, it was worth the risk. However, as more and more people are starting to become socially aware, and I really don't like using that phrase because I just don't like using that phrase, but as more and more people are becoming aware of the abuses in China, and as we start to becoming more, just a little bit more conscious as a whole, as a country, as a world, of the shit China is doing, you're getting more and more pushback against these companies doing this. Now, does Blizzard care? Does Activision care? No. You want to know why they pull their plug of games in China? Not because of my personal outrage or your outrage or anyone's outrage. It's because, well, NetEase probably wanted more money. Because you can't just release a game in China. You have to go through a Chinese middleman, fronted by the CCP, of course, to release a game in China. But it was worth it. However, as these pressures start building, it might not necessarily have been financially worth it to Blizzard anymore. They could have been trying to get a bigger cut of the pie to offset the risk with operating with such a shady entity as NetEase. And that's where the contract was terminated. Now, does this mean that Blizzard games will never appear in China again? Probably not. Will they go through NetEase? Maybe not. They can always go through Tencent. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, which actually would be worse because between NetEase and Tencent, Tencent's even more embedded with the Chinese government. But that is where we are at this moment. Right now, just Blizzard getting shit on, and whenever I see someone's chickens come home to roost, I can't help but smile, at least a little bit. Take a look at chat here. Americans have been too busy buying in-game skins to worry about China for the past 20 years. Yeah, I mean, it's. I fully admit it. I'm an American. We're lazy. We're disconnected. We have it really, really good in this country. We have it so good that we make up shit to be upset about, while real issues, like massive human rights abuses in places like China or Saudi Arabia, to use another country that's been encroaching in on video gaming, we just go, who cares? We have to worry about this nonsense bullshit issue here in America because, once again, we got to make up issues to feel victimized in this country. So yeah, we've been ignoring real problems. But fortunately, I think we're starting to see a turnaround on that. We'll see as it goes on. While still on the topic of, you know what? No, I'm cutting that story. I'm cutting that. I don't feel like going into it. If you want to read about a Blizzard manager departing in protest over Blizzard's ranking system, I'll put the link to the story down below as well. You can read it on your own. But honestly, we don't necessarily need to get into it. All you need to know is that someone quit Blizzard because they hated the way they were doing internal reviews. And they did kind of suck. They scored on a curve, but it required too much setup. Moving on to the next topic here. From GameIndustry.biz, rather. Nintendo reportedly planning to increase Switch production in 2023. Now, in a industry full of layoffs and scalebacks or cutbacks and layoffs, cutbacks, and scale downs, it's odd to see Nintendo increasing production on something, but I think there's something to it here, and it's not just what the article gets into. To the article here from your GamesIndustry.biz. Nintendo is reportedly planning to ramp up Switch production for next fiscal year. Sources close to the matter told Bloomberg that the platform holder has already told suppliers and assembly partners that it expects to manufacture more units of its console than in the current financial year. It has not told partners of a specific target. Back in November, Nintendo lowered its forecast from 21 million units shipped in the 12 months ending of March 30th, 2023 to 19 million. However, Bloomberg sources claim Nintendo is on the course to its original target. This revision was due to ongoing issues in securing components, particularly semiconductors, for the Nintendo Switch, but the company now believes those issues to be resolved. Sources say Nintendo may revise these plans to increase Switch production if demand diminishes, but the console struggles have been more due to limited supply rather than increasing demand. In other words, they're saying they can't make enough of them, so they're going to say, hey, we're dying down how many we said would sell to a low number. Now they're saying we can definitely make more of them. But I also think that demand is going to go up, not just because of the chip shortage getting resolved, which wouldn't increase demand, that would increase supply. I think demand's going to skyrocket with the Switch this year for a primary litany of factors, but a different primary litany of factors for a myriad of reasons. What the hell am I talking? But the problem is I'm reading and speaking at the same time, and brain gets crossed. There are many reasons why I think demand for the Switch, not necessarily the supply. Supply is going to go up because the chip shortage is getting solved. Well, improving, I should say. The reason why I think demand's going up is because you have a potential banner year for Nintendo out this year. You have the Mario theme park opening up in America. You have that Super Mario movie from Illumination starring Chris Pratt coming out later this year. You have the next Zelda game coming out this year. It's going to make Nintendo very culturally relevant compared to the past few years. Not that they weren't already, but this is an extra injection of hype that Nintendo didn't really have over the past 2 years or so. And I think all of that combined with the easing of manufacturing issues on the semiconductor side are going to lead to more of these units getting sold this year than in the previous couple of years. And that's very weird to think about when you consider how we started this show with companies going through layoffs, with games getting canceled, with unknown futures for studios and publishers alike. And then there's Nintendo. This is good old faithful Nintendo marching to the beat of its own drum, as they tend to do, standing upon the top of all of this destruction, saying, we're here with our Switch, our dated, old, last generation, clearly on its last leg Switch, and it's going to sell like a motherfucker. Now, one thing that I do think also is contributing to them trying to sell more Switches is, and chat's hitting at it, this idea of a Switch 2. The Switch is rapidly starting to show its age, like comically so. And I do think the development of a Switch 2 might have been in the cards, but I think that's now been put on hold because R&D is expensive. It's a huge cost in developing a new console. And you can't be doing that right now. So if I were to venture a guess, whereas many companies are laying people off or canceling things, I think Nintendo's course of action to batten down the hatches is to just maintain the status quo. I'm betting that Nintendo thinks they can get another 2 to 3 years out of the Switch. Because at the end of the day, they're all Nintendo games. Nintendo games as a whole tend not to be very graphically demanding. They can run on the Switch. They're designed to be on the Switch. And how many people are really porting their stuff over to the Switch anyways? That requires a stronger system. I know we had like Witcher 3, I think, come over the Switch, and I know they're doing their cloud saves. But at the end of the day, Nintendo systems have always been just that. Nintendo systems. People don't buy the Switch to play Call of Duty on it. People buy the Switch to play Mario on it, play Zelda on it, play Metroid on it, to play travel games on it. And I don't even mean that negatively. The Switch is great for any kind of game that you can play for 20 minutes and then turn it off. That has been Nintendo's MO for years now. And when that is what your target is, you can get away with having an older piece of hardware for longer. And I think Nintendo's response to the upcoming economic crisis is going to be just that. Let's keep steady on the Switch. Let's not roll out the Switch 2. Let's just go with what we know. And let's extend that out for another year or two. Now, it might bite them in the ass come 2024, 2025. But for right now, outside of the odd Pokemon is a graphical train wreck article that you'll see, I think it's going to do well by them. We'll see if that strategy pays out in a year or two, but I think for 2023, it's a winner. One more story that I want to... Actually, I got a couple more stories. First up, Stadia is officially dead. We knew this was coming, but it actually had its final day of January 28th, 2023. Add yet another abandoned Google product to the Google graveyard. And we have a delay to get into. That Lord of the Rings game, Lord of the Rings Gollum, delayed again. Originally, it was slated to be coming out in the first half of 2021. Then it was delayed to 2022. Then it was delayed again a few months. And now Noccon's recent earnings report says that it won't be coming out until the first half of fiscal year 2023 and 2024, which is way later than a few months from 2022. So no official date on what's happening here yet, but if you were looking forward to Lord of the Rings Gollum, and I don't know who was, you got a little bit longer wait on that. And then finally, one last thing that I want to bring up before we wrap things up here today is the Xbox Developer Direct. This is going to be happening tomorrow, Wednesday, January 25th at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Still debating if I'm going to show up an hour early and stream this or not. I probably will. It is going to be going over the following Bethesda games. Redfall, or rather, the following Xbox games. Redfall, Forza Motorsport, Minecraft Legend, The Elder Scrolls Online. There will be no Starfield at this. There will be no Elder Scrolls 6 at this. They have been very clear in saying, hey, don't expect those games at this. And yet somehow the internet is still going to be upset there's no Starfield at this. I can promise you that. However, for those of you who are wondering when we're getting more news about Starfall, there is going to be an extra event later on this year, it seems. that is going to be solely focused around Starfall. Let me see if I can find where is that at. There it is, right there. Standalone show for Bethesda Game Studio. Starfall is also in the works. We'll have more to share on that soon. So probably sometime come end of March, maybe even February. Who knows? But keep in mind that this is going to be going over Redfall, Forza, Minecraft Legends, Elder Scrolls Online, not Starfall. And with that, I think that does it. This has been GamePoints, episode 342, and thank you all for showing up. We do stream this show live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here at twitch.tv/GamePoints. So, if you want to join us live, please do so, like many of you do. If you can't watch us live, however, you can also watch us at any myriad of video hosting platforms, be they YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, etc. And if you like what you saw here, you know what streamers want. Likes, bits, follows, shares, subs, all that good stuff. There's also a Discord you can join, link provided down below if you want to be part of the greater GamePoints community, along with all the stories that we talked about here today. You can follow myself, Steve Brown, at CapitalistPig21, and I do stream on this channel right here at twitch.tv/GamePoints Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for 2 shows a day. Look forward to see you all then. Until next week, you all stay safe, take care, and I'm out of here.